Okay, we are here with Kristina Forest, author of 7 best-selling young adult and sisterhood romance books, fellow Jersey girl, and former book publishing corporate Barbie. We're so
Ooh, I
excited,
like
Kristina.
that.
Yes, we're so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so Kristina, are you a Carrie, Miranda, Charlotte, or Samantha, or a combination?
I would say I like to think that I'm a little bit of everyone, but as I've gotten older, I think I'm a Charlotte. I really.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
In terms of like, obviously the whole writer of my life, that's like a Carrie thing, my career, all that stuff.
Right.
And Miranda and Samantha, like their career trajectory and how hard they work, they're like boss ladies that also feel like resonates with me.
Yeah.
But Charlotte, in terms of like dating, because she knew what she wanted and she was very clear on those principles and getting the kind of man that she wanted, even though Harry ultimately didn't look like the man she thought she was going to end up with. She really stuck to her guns on her dating. And I think that's me.
Yeah.
So like in that
shame.
way, I relate to how she was just like, no, I'm not going to settle. You know, even if I found this like white and shining armor husband, he doesn't want kids, and that's important to me. So her approach to dating, I think, I'm a lot like Charlotte.
Same. I appreciate Charlotte as well. I think I approach dating in a very similar way. So all good. You're in good company.
Yes. Do you watch And Just Like That, or have you ever watched it?
I do.
Do you watch it regularly?
Wow.
So I usually will let a few weeks go by, and then I watch a few at once.
A few at once?
Yeah, because they're like 20 minutes long. They're not very long at all. You're talking about
the first one was like 45 minutes of the third season. It was like a long one.
Okay, yeah, so I didn't even notice. I feel like the way that I have come to look at that show is that it's like fan fiction. Like I think of it as like not canon, because there are certain things that happened that I'm like, huh? You know, it's just like it was tripping me up for the first season in comparison to the original series and the movies. I was just kind of like, wait, what is happening? Of course, I really miss Samantha. I think so many people do, and I just don't want to accept the reality that Carrie and Samantha are not cool, and that Samantha moved to another country and is no longer cool with the girls. You know, I really miss her, and so that's why I just sort of look at it as like, this is just a fun thing for nostalgia purposes. I don't think of it as
a fun thing for nostalgia purposes. I'm really trying to wrap my mind around it, because I did a whole review on season 3, episode 1 of And Just Like That, and I thought it was so horrendously written. And I think most of the show, I've watched at least 4 episodes at this point, and every episode is written like and somebody in our Patreon said it could be AI, which I actually really believe.
No.
And I really do think it could be them testing AI
better
on us.
I almost see that's why I have come to say, you know what? This is good fun for everybody except for Kim Cattrall, who was in the original. You know, it's like all of the original producers and writers are back. And for me, I would like to think that the way that they're looking at it is like, we're just having good fun and we're making money. And, you know, we're just,
I think that's what it is.
We are thinking about the nostalgia viewers like me who are going to show up regardless to watch.
Yeah, that's really
know,
what it is.
And so it's just kind of like,
they can get away with it.
Yeah,
they can get away with it.
They can get away with it, because once I accepted, once I started looking at the show like that, I didn't get upset watching it or get frustrated by certain things, because I was just like, you know what? I'm here to see the
expectations are low. Yeah.
You know, the clothes. And there's always references to the original series. I love to see that. And, you know, Sex and the City is my favorite show of all time. And so I've watched it so many times. And so for that reason, it's always like feels it's comforting to watch and just like that. Because of how familiar these characters and all that stuff is to me. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. I applaud you. We can't, but
I could never.
I'm so happy that
oh my God,
exactly what you need from this show.
It is such a travesty to me in my head. But you know what? Some people do like the comfort of visiting back with old characters. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you lived in New York for a while, right?
I did. I moved to New York, right? So I got into Sex and the City when I was in college, when I was an undergrad. It was playing reruns on E!
All day.
And all day. And in between classes, whenever I was in my dorm room, me and my roommate would watch Sex and the City.
Cute.
Yeah. And then that summer, for a Christmas gift, my parents got me the big DVD set.
Ooh, I remember that DVD set.
Yes, and
it was so sparkly.
It was pink and like soft.
Yes,
and I would watch a couple. I was working at the mall at the time that summer, and so I would watch a couple episodes. That I would go work at Forever 21, R.I.P. And and I watched the whole series, and I had really, really big dreams about moving to New York. After graduation, and so that was what I did. So for a lot, and I feel like that show has been with me throughout, the beginning of my adulthood, 18 years old, up to now.
Yeah. So you live in the world of love and dating and romance and sex because you are a best-selling author. And so I'm curious, what are your favorite romance tropes to write about?
I love Marriage of Convenience. That was my second romance novel. Had like a modern day Marriage of Convenience, and I love Marriage of Convenience across romance subgenres. You see it a ton in historical, of course, but I love it in sci-fi. I love it in suspense. And regardless, to me, that's like the amped up version of fake dating, because it is, these two people who are getting married for mostly ends up being like financial or career ambitions or things like that. But the biggest benefit that they are getting out of this arrangement is the love that they end up growing for each other. And it's just more solid. It's like, no, we're married. There's no easy way out of this. And, I think I like that. Another one of my favorites is epistolary, or like letter writing, or, emails, like falling in love via the written word. I really love. Another one that I really like is amnesia, which you don't see very often, where one character loses their memory.
I do love that, particularly in a movie.
They have to sort of be reminded by the other person, like of their love for them, or I've read some really good ones like that too. To be honest with you, I will read any trope. I'm not the kind of person who's like, I don't like that, because I very easily separate fiction from real life. And I feel like if you read a trope that you think you don't like, but it's really well done, then it sort of changes your whole perspective on, it's all about execution to me. So that's why I'm always like, I will kind of read anything and see how I like it. And I'm always just up for whatever, honestly.
Yeah. I was going to ask, how do you balance tropes with realism in your novels?
The way that I very rarely start a book with a trope. The only time I did that was with the partner plot, because I really wanted to write Marriage of Convenience. And when you're doing that trope, you really have to be intentional from the beginning about how that Marriage of Convenience is going to happen. But otherwise, I just start with the characters and who they are, how they relate to each other, or like their vibe, their chemistry. And then I build from there. And that's sometimes how the tropes, plot lines, whatever trope fits with the plot line, is how they sort of come out organically from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Particularly, like, it all comes back to the characters. And so censoring them versus censoring the trope, I think would just even for the reader be a better experience.
Yeah.
And speaking of character development, I know you always like start with character development for your novels and then you go into story. And your book trilogy with the partner plot and love lyric, unlike a lot of other popular franchises, focuses on family and not friendship. There's a lot of books about friends. There's not a whole lot of books about family ties. What made you write more about family dynamics as opposed to friendship?
So I got into romance by reading historical. And one of my favorite historical romance novel series is called The Hathaways by Lisa Kleypas. And what I always say is if you've read Bridgerton or you're familiar with the show, which I think a lot more people are familiar with the show maybe than the books at this point, but The Hathaways is very similar to that. It's a historical romance series about siblings, and each sibling gets a book. And I loved that series. I have not read all of the Bridgerton books, but I really loved book 3. And I was reading a lot of that in historical, and I wanted to do something similar, but for modern day. And I wanted the characters, all their names to all have something in common. So that's where the flowers came from. And I just wanted to write a story about a book series about sisters, and each sister gets a different book. I thought that would be a really good way to establish a world and, you know, establish branding, because The Neighbor Fear was my first adult romance, but I had written a few YA novels before that. But yeah, I saw it in historical first, and so I wanted to do that for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm reading the love lyric right now, and the eldest daughter tropes in there are like so accurate. And they're glaring, right? Because you only have 320 pages or whatever, but they're very, very accurately done. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
And as someone who formerly worked in publishing, you don't work in publishing anymore, right?
I don't anymore. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Same. I started in education publishing at Wiley Publishing.
Oh, wow.
That was my first big job out of college, my first internship, everything. And I was let go on the release of Chegg because they started renting books, and then we lost all of our money. How do you think, and where did you work before Simon & Schuster? You were in fiction?
I was all over.
You were all over. Okay.
Had internships at Macmillan and at Abrams and at SNS. I worked full time at SNS, and then I stayed the longest at Random House Children's Books. I was there for about 6 years.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay,
or was it 5? It was a long time.
Yeah. So in working in those spaces, you know how far behind some of these publishing executives and just people in media overall can be. And as somebody who worked in publishing, did you ever think that something like a social media app like TikTok could open up 60 more Barnes & Noble bookstores? You know what I'm saying?
No,
How do you think publishing should adapt to now capturing the attention of young minds?
I think that publishing needs to remember that they are creating the product. You know, there would be no Book Talk or Barnes & Noble without books.
Yeah.
And, you know, publishers are the ones who really should be driving the conversation to say, these are the books to pay attention to. And in a way they are. You know, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is which books are getting the most money put behind them.
Yep.
But that's something that I think publishers just sort of need to remember, like the actual power that they have when it comes to, because you're making the product. You are the one who's actually leading the conversation. So just sort of like remember that and step into that. And, you know, I don't really buy into the idea that we don't know what's going to happen. We're just going to publish it and see what happens. It's strategy. It's a business. Everything is strategy. And, you know, I think that publishers across the board, regardless of age, range, genre, just need to work on being innovative.
Are you guys plugged in? I'm sure you guys are, but I'm just gonna ask anyway. Like plugged into the different publishing houses, like their social media platforms. Like, are they innovating? Are they driving the conversation, or is it, you know?
I think some
randoms
are.
of TikTok.
Yeah, some are. I want to say Random Houses. I've seen them quite often, and I feel like they send their authors out a lot. Simon and Schuster does a lot of housewives books.
Oh,
a lot of housewives biographies. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
So they get a lot of like quick money grabs for all the rest of their books, which is a zillion things. But the people who are doing the best in publishing, I think, Kristina, you let us know what you think, is magazines. I think Vogue, Elle, Cosmo, I think all of their video media that they're doing is more advanced than everybody else.
That's true. You know who I really love? The Cut. I think that they are like, and phenomenal. Just the way they're, all of their content and the way that they're so conversational. You can tell that there's a real person running their social media pages.
Right.
And so, and just the things that they cover, I think that they're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Magazines, they're obviously, we read magazines, but they're also very visual based.
Yeah.
So that crossover to social media, whereas books, I mean, I'm not plugged in, so I don't know, but Random House and the big publisher Penguin, whatever, like figuring out how to translate that onto the social sphere to control the narrative and not have random book talk people kind of tell us what to watch or what to read.
Yeah, because like a lot of them do have pages, and I will say that I think that digital marketing teams across the board and publishing are doing a really great job. I will say that. Okay. I think that, and it takes a lot of work because there's always a new trend. There's always something new that you have to be up on, and there's so many books under each imprint that you have to highlight. And so I think that the people who are running the TikToks and the Instagrams and the threads, I mean, it's literally like every day there's like a news thing that you have to like learn and adapt to. Yeah. So I think that the people who are working on those teams are doing a really good job. And the best that they can, because it's usually like one person working across multiple platforms. In terms of being innovative, I guess what I mean is being innovative in the way that they choose to put support behind books, as opposed to
behind which books and which authors.
Honestly, I think like for example, something that we hear a lot, or at least we used to hear a lot, is that sci-fi doesn't work. It's not working.
Yeah. Wow.
And there's no point to buy. There's no point to license or acquire a sci-fi book because it's not going to do well. This particular thing isn't doing well right now, so we're not buying it. We're not looking for it. As opposed to the outlook being, you know what? Maybe this isn't doing well right now, but we really like this. We want to buy it, and we want to figure out how we can get this into the hands of readers. That is more so what I would like to see, as opposed to this isn't working, therefore we're not going to even try. Because I don't think that helps anybody.
Yes, that's a big attitude in publishing. Yeah.
So that's sort of what I mean when I say that, like, there need to be some bigger risks being taken, because then you end up falling into the kind of publishing landscape where everything's the same because they're safe bets. And then it's like, well, then that's not fun for readers, because we're humans. We have both, we have brains, and we want to be challenged and read different kinds of things. And so that's the taking more risks, I guess, is what I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so, because that's kind of, betting on the safe bet is what we're seeing happening in the movie industry with everything being adaptations. So I don't even want to know what that would look like translated in the book publishing. We're just rereading the same books over and over. Like, that sounds dangerous. So let's hope we get more of the future that you're talking about, Kristina, honestly. But anyways, let's dive into Sex and the City, talk a little bit of love and romance. So this episode is called The Attack of the 5'10" Woman. So we open up with Carrie. She's talking about the joys of brunch and the New York Times wedding section that they are flipping through. Charlotte is depressed about how young all these women are getting married in the announcements. And then, of course, they come across Big and Natasha's wedding announcement.
Well, it's official. He's married. Where are my home fries?
Charlotte goes home with Carrie because, like,
she's on watch.
She's literally on suicide watch. Like,
Yep.
Jeez. And they read the announcement, you know, how they met in Paris, along the Seine or some shit, and, you know, small wedding, intimate in the Hamptons, and Carrie's just like shitting on the whole thing. But obviously it hits her and she gets really upset. And she's really just stuck on Natasha, like who she is, right? Natasha's like
the
Vogue,
figure of Natasha.
the figure, Vogue style section, Vera Wang dress, and then Carrie's like, I'm just this downtown like sex columnist, like writer type. Like, what am I?
And she just got broken up for that reason. Sorry to interrupt you, but she just got broken up with by the politician,
Bill Kelly,
because he said that she was just a sex columnist,
slimy sex columnist. Yeah. Oh, geez, I didn't even think about that. Now, later we see Carrie and Miranda. They run into Natasha in a dressing room.
I would die. I would lay down and die.
Carrie's in her bra and panties. Natasha's looking like a glamazon, all dressed up. And she said she's there. She's looking for an outfit for the Women in the Arts luncheon that she helped organize. Carrie, of course, lied and is like, oh, yeah, I'm a woman in the arts. I'm going. I have a would you rather for you guys, just real quick. Just watching Carrie run into Natasha. Would you rather run into your ex's new girl nearly naked in the dressing room, so literally have this exact moment, or run into your ex with his girl, but you look a little bit more presentable?
I choose the dressing room.
Yeah.
Less awkward.
Yeah.
Even though, because like you're both women, whatever, you see bodies, whatever. But like to see him and her, I'd be like, get me out of here.
Yeah. There's way more control over the narrative when it's just you and just her rather than him in the middle.
Yeah. Even if you look a little bit more I think I'd rather run into the both of them and I feel like I look good versus I'm in the dressing room butt naked damn near with her.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a hard one. That's a really hard one.
I think where I come from is like I wouldn't want to see him. So,
exactly. Yeah, I don't want to see him.
So just avoiding him, no matter how you look. I get that. So anyways, Carrie goes on another shopping spree. She's shopping all damn week. She's buying all kinds of clothes and shoes she cannot afford. She's going to this brunch. She's got to look the best ever. And she's obviously like obsessing over like trying to show out to Natasha. Carrie and Samantha head to the luncheon. And of course, Natasha is sick. She's not even there.
I can't believe that bitch is a no-show.
I'm the one who's sick.
So she did all of this, spent all her money, all her rent money and everything for nothing. Samantha, trying to be a good friend, runs into some random girl who gives Carrie some random tea on Natasha from like her college days, just like trying to help her feel better. You meet Magda. Who is rearranging her whole kitchen. She buys her a rolling pin, tells her she needs to be baking pies. I just bought a rolling pin this Saturday, actually.
For that recipe that I gave
For
you?
the recipe you gave me, I didn't have a rolling pin. I don't bake like that, so I just didn't have literally my Miranda moment. Anyways, Magda comes across Miranda's vibrator, and Miranda is like immediately trying to justify, like, I have a boyfriend, like trying to like, you know, it's not what you think. And Magda just kind of presses her like, you need to be married. You know, aren't you married? And Miranda's like basically trying to stand up for herself. Later, we find that Magda replaced the vibrator with a Virgin Mary statue. So
wild. Incredible writing. So good.
And then Miranda ultimately confronts Magda, tells her, I'm 34, I'm single in New York. Do not judge me. I'm living my life. Like, stop. And Magda eventually leaves her alone. It eventually leaves her a whole platter of condoms out on her dresser, actually, trying to help the sister out. Charlotte, this episode, the ladies go to a spa. Charlotte is like very uncomfortable with her body, being naked in the steam room with the ladies. Eventually, by the end of the episode, she kind of gets over herself, especially when somebody compliments how nice her boobs look. Samantha is running around with this masseuse at the spa. She learned he goes down on women, so she books a session. And he was taking too long to do the business, so she takes matters into her own hands and grabs his junk. Gets kicked out of the spa for molesting this man. And she gives one of my favorite lines, I think, ever in the series. She says, I paid good money expecting to be eaten out.
I'm telling you, it was entrapment, false advertising, and blatant discrimination. You can't just randomly go down on one person and not on another. I paid good money expecting to be eaten out.
So loud at the luncheon. Carrie's like, shut the fuck up.
Arts luncheon. Oh my God.
No shame. And she was so pissed. She's like, I paid good money. So funny.
Oh my God.
Oh God. And then the episode ends. Carrie is at her apartment. She gets a thank you from Natasha from the luncheon. And she concludes for herself, some women are simply better. I'll never have the perfect hair. I'll never chair committees. But in the thank you letter from Natasha used the wrong there. THEIRs, which she said it should have been THERE. So Carrie is obviously feeling very good about herself now. And that was the episode. So let's dive into our little discussion. So the question that Carrie was facing this episode, are there women who are just there to make us feel bad about ourselves? I want to talk first about the New York Times wedding section and why does that even exist? What is even the point of that section?
Well, it was Instagram. That's what was Instagram before.
Oh, you're saying that was the original Instagram.
That was the OG Instagram I'm posting, or even Facebook. I'm posting my wedding. I'm posting my this. As somebody who just posted an announcement yesterday, I'm posting, up my thing. But also, you had to write in and submit, and I want to say you had to pay to be in it.
More than likely have to pay something.
And now I think it's so much more accelerated now. They've amped it up so much, the display of weddings and love and all of the rest of that. But Kristina, what did you think? What do you think about the New York Times section?
I thought, I sort of look at it as a way to like stunt on other people, or just like, this is my life. It's a highlight reel. Like, I'm getting married. And because then they do the explanation of like their parents and how they met. And, it's just sort of like painting this fairy tale. And I guess I'm not familiar with it enough in real life, but whenever I see it in movies and like Sex and the City, it's usually wealthy people kind of who get highlighted. But I don't know if it's all over, or if it's just all New Yorkers who can be chosen for that. But I don't know if I've ever seen like a non-wealthy
regular
couple.
Get it right. I feel like I always have it in my head that it's like the rich and famous, or like the wealthy, not even rich, or not
like
even
high society.
High society, exactly. And that they're writing this in. I don't think they get chosen. I think they submit it.
You submit it,
which is like
picked.
So whack to me. So you're doing this simply for attention, like. Why else are we doing this? So finding out your ex is married, or finding out that an ex has moved on when you're not, that hits everybody. Like, I think we all could relate with Carrie to some extent this episode. When specifically is that so hurtful? And like, why is it especially hurtful seeing your ex move on?
I think it's the way they move on.
The way. Okay.
I think if your ex gets a new girlfriend, fine. If your ex gets a new wife right after you, that hurts.
Yeah.
Especially the way, because this makes me think about, the Hold Down episode when she's just walking around the party and then she looks, and they have the nerve to be the only two not dressed in theme. That would have pissed me off.
Yes.
Already.
Like, do you think you're too good to come to this party dressed in your cowboy and cowgirl best? Like, what is this situation? That would just make me so mad seeing them there dressed all classy. And then she's there, even though her outfit was really cute. But, she's got a cowgirl hat on, like a bandeau, and then they're just all lovey-dovey. And the way that they broke up because, of his perceived lack of commitment or desire to commit to her. And then she turns around and he's with this beautiful model-looking woman. And she's like, I didn't even know you were back in this country, let alone with a new girlfriend. And then then she tries to be his friend. Never. But she tries to be his friend and then tells her, they're engaged. It's just the whole sequence of events for how she found out. It's kind of brutal.
I think it's especially tough when you haven't moved on from them, obviously, and then when you have moved on, but you're still dating, and they found somebody.
Yeah.
You're over them, but to see that they got out of the dating pool faster than you, like that especially sucks because you're like, fuck, I'm still out here,
Yeah, and I would feel like insulted. Like, we were together for how long, and I couldn't get you to even tell me if you wanted me to come visit you. And now, within how much time has passed between when they break up and when she sees him again? Isn't it just like a summer?
I don't remember. I think, it was like over the summer he came back from Paris.
Yeah.
And he was back at the Hamptons at Natasha's house.
Yeah.
And then he got the engagement party, and then they got married season 3. But between seasons, we don't know how much time passed.
Yeah, but not a ton of time. I'd have been like, oh. Yeah. But I feel like that happens so often in real life, where some people are together for so long, then they break up, and then one person months later is engaged, and they're calling this other person the love of their life, and it's like, well wait a minute.
Yeah, I think it's especially hurtful too, even for Carrie in the situation when one of the issues that you had in your relationship was commitment, like your ability to commit, and then clearly you don't have a issue with commitment if you're getting married to somebody else. So then it's like, where you see Carrie kind of driving herself crazy, very much comparing herself to Natasha, because she's like, it wasn't just his commitment issues. Clearly, it has to just be me. It has to have been me. So that's where the spiral, I think, just tough. And I think also, like, a lot of people nowadays, like, we're in the blocking, just block the person, you don't want to see them, whatever. Or, you might, just like never see them again if you live to, another city or something. But it's especially hard now in the world of social media to like not have their lives constantly still in your face. Like, you have to take the active thing. You have to take the active action of blocking. And that, I think, is especially painful. I think Carrie would have been fine if she didn't see that announcement post, right? But to see and witness your ex moving on, like to literally witness it with your own eyes, it really brings a finality to things. On the flip side, it could bring closure. I'm under the impression that things happen for a reason. Like, if you run into your ex by chance, like, I think that's not always a coincidence. There's like a purpose in you needing, like, seeing that person or having to see that person. I've told this story on the pod, I'm pretty sure. Nate and I went out to dinner, ran into his ex. This was like right after we got married. And it was, I think, very coincidental, because it was like we went to a restaurant we'd never been to in a part of Manhattan we never go to. It was like a very late dinner, which we never do. It was like so many things. I was like, this is not normal. And then who's sitting across from us at a table across from us is his ex. And, we got up, said hi. It was obviously like a little awkward for all people involved for different reasons. But then, we sat back down, and he and I were like, well, this is so crazy. And she and I were still kind of like sitting facing each other in a sense. So I could be projecting all of this. I don't actually know this girl or what is going on in her life. But I could just, every time I'd like look over her, I could just see her almost being like deep in thought, like kind of like looking off like in thought. And I kept thinking, like, of course, like, what are the chances is so random. Like, what are the chances? But her seeing us, that might have done something for her, like for me, seeing her didn't really, it was okay, this is cool, interesting, it's like a story now that I can tell. For Nate, I think it was nice to like see her, like they ended amicably, but then they haven't seen each other in years. He's like, oh, what a random thing. But why did this happen? I was like, I feel like this was for her more than anybody, and I don't know why, but I always believe, like, if you run into your ex, something that's like not supposed to happen, right? What is the purpose of it? What is the productivity of it? Like, it could bring you something. I don't know, whatever it is.
And at that point, Nate wasn't really on social media, like, at all, right? He's almost unfindable at that point.
She knew, though, that we were married. So he hasn't posted a lot, but I think he posted like our wedding or something.
Yeah, right.
So she knew, she saw that and like congratulated us and stuff. But
on Instagram?
on Instagram. Yeah. They still follow each other.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's not a great follow because he doesn't post that much. But
he doesn't post anything. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
But she saw the wedding. She at least saw that. Maybe things I tagged him in, maybe,
okay.
or maybe he posted something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that she knew. Yeah. But yeah, I like to think that it's like with Carrie, this has even like made her spiral into some type of reflection, right?
Yeah, I think with Big, and he does this all the way up until the end of his life, he always surprises her.
Yeah. That is true.
Every time. It's a shock with this man.
Yeah, seriously.
Like all the time. He is constantly, not even surprising, because that even sounds like it's a good connotation. He's constantly shocking her into like reality and where she is.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those times where if she was just walking around her everyday life, she could have just daydreamed that they broke up. Mm-hmm. And they broke up the engagement. Just like Charlotte said, engagements break up sometimes. Like you never know. Like could always have been that chance. And this just shocked her back into realism, as he does.
Yeah, that's I feel like I keep like bringing up other things about like other episodes or whatever. I know we're focusing on one episode, but what I will say is that I think, and then I'm just speaking from experience and then watching Carrie go through it, it's like when you have an ex like that who takes you through these various ups and downs, you can sort of get in your head that this is what love is. It's these really intense highs, these really low lows, and you can sort of associate all of those intense emotions with the feeling of being in love. And so then when you meet someone who's steady, you don't know what to do with it. And I think that in some situations, well, I mean, we see it the most obviously with Aiden in the original series, where she just is kind of like expecting chaos. And when it doesn't happen, sort of self-sabotages. And so, but that's to your point about Big, for better. Well, now I won't say for better or for worse, but he's just always kept her on her toes one way or another. And I think once we got to the movies, she sort of did the same thing to him too. Especially, what was it, the second movie where he just wanted to like watch TV? And she was like,
the second movie.
I'm going to blow up my life, actually. So I think I agree with you that he just sort of always had her like this. You know, she could never.
Zigzagging. Yeah.
It's like he could smell it. He could smell her trying to be happy somewhere.
Always.
So we see Carrie this episode. We don't even see Big, but we see Carrie really just like reeling over Natasha specifically. Why does Natasha make Carrie feel so bad about herself? Is it always like this? Like no matter who the ex is? Or is it when it feels like your ex has elevated in some way?
I think it has to do ultimately with Carrie's own insecurities about herself. I feel like this episode makes her confront whatever insecurities that she has because, you know, objectively, Carrie's a pretty decent girl. You know, she's got a career. She has a great group of friends, which means that she doesn't have issues with fostering relationships, you know, and she's been in this same apartment. She's got this great life. But all of a sudden, she's confronted with this younger, taller woman who is now with the love of her life, and it's making her look at herself in a negative light. I think it could have been anyone. You know, Natasha is it's easier because she's, you know, looks like a model, and she's younger. That's got to be really annoying, you know. But like. Yeah. Especially because Big's older than her, you know? She's like, how young do you have to go? I think that if he had married anybody else other than her in the way that he did it, in the time frame that he did it, she still would have been comparing herself on paper to this other person simply because they have somehow gotten the thing that she wanted so badly and so quickly, you know, when he gave her such crap along the way.
I do think to some extent it does have to do with Natasha. I mean, Carrie for sure feeling insecure, but because of all the things Natasha represents. She's younger than her. She comes from like a stronger pedigree than her. She in her head is prettier than her. Like, I think it does matter. Like, even the superficial things of like looks, like that is what is making Carrie spiral. If Natasha didn't look the way she did, she would have like something over her, right? Oh, well, he downgraded. In her head, he elevated, right? He got someone better. And so I think that's kind of what's causing the spiral. I think it's deeper. Obviously, she has clearly her own insecurities, but it's unfortunate to think that something so superficial is really what like kicks off her spiral, I think. Yeah.
Do you think it's superficial, or do you think it's stuff that she can't help, and so she's upset about it?
Yeah, it's she can't help it, so it feels almost superficial because it's like you can't change these things anyways. Like, you're not gonna be born in a new family, so these are actually things that don't really matter, but they matter to her because they seem to matter too big, and he's elevated in those ways. Yeah, that's how I think of it.
Yeah, I think they matter to her too. I think that's why she went to the Women in the Arts luncheon and tried to prove that she's also a woman in the arts. You know?
Yeah. Carrie, we see this episode just becomes really obsessed with Natasha. How can we, and maybe you guys have experience, I don't know, but how can we not compare ourselves to our ex's new girl?
You have to evaluate what it means to be better. I think that's the constant tug with this episode, except for Samantha. It's this constant tug of who is better. Charlotte is in the sauna looking at who is better than her. Yeah. Miranda is being told by her housekeeper that other women are better than her. And Carrie is being told by herself in the narrative that's running through her head that other women are just better than her. And what does that mean? What makes all these women so much better than you? Because they can wear white and not spill anything, because they can marry your ex, because they can write handwritten thank you notes and share the luncheons. Like, what exactly about that makes them better than you? I think that conversation happens a lot with Blackness as well, and like Black excellence, like what makes people Black excellence and what doesn't. And I think it's a conversation that is a really good one to face for yourself, and probably what old girl was doing looking at you when you were having dinner with your husband. Of like, what, you know what I mean? That could have been the reflection that she could have been having. Like, what, not what's wrong with me, but what exactly, where are my values and where do I lie in them? Am I really that low in my own value system?
I think I would just be thinking that we just weren't right for each other then. You know,
that's
and nice. I think, because if I'm thinking real life, and I'm also thinking about caring big, and maybe the perspective that I would have ultimately come to, it's just that we're all so different, and not every relationship is the right fit. Even if you don't have a toxic relationship like Big and Carrie, sometimes you just want different things.
Kristina, when you're writing characters and developing them, do you ever consider this element of jealousy when writing about other women or men? Is someone better or worse in the value system?
You know what? Not out of a place of jealousy. I think usually I am not a huge fan of any like love triangle kind of stuff in terms of my own writing. I much prefer the sort of fated mates of it all, which is another trope I really love, where it's like two people who are so gone for each other, they're not even thinking about anybody else. And I prefer to harness all the romance energy into those feelings. But I do think, I'm trying to think of like in some of my books where people have had exes. Usually the exes are really bad, and it's like it's a real very clear black and white reason for why they are no longer the person. But I have read some books where you sort of Or like a book that does this really well is called An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. And I don't know why I've been thinking about that book lately, but like that is a really interesting love triangle where you don't really know who is the right person for this girl to be with. You don't know. And it comes down to, well, who is the best person for her to live her life with? It's not about he's the worst guy because he's messed up or, you know, he lied or did this X bad thing. It's just really she's in a better partnership with this other person.
I think also when you're looking at an ex that is like so different than you, I would think or hope it'd be easier for you to tell yourself like, oh, that he definitely just wasn't my person. You know, if I'm looking at a clone of me, like she also has a podcast, she's bald and talk like, and it's like, damn, what the fuck? It is me. Like if I'm looking at a girl, like Carrie's literally looking at somebody who's so different from her. Like I wanted to snap into her, like, you see, it's not you. Like she, like they're just a better match for so many reasons.
Like there's nothing you could do to make yourself be Natasha. You can't. You're so different, and so that would have been a comfort to me. Like, oh, it's not me. It wasn't me. It's him and whatever he wants. And like, there was no way that I could ever be that.
This is all easier said than done.
Yes, exactly.
In the moment, like you don't give a shit. You're so emotionally, particularly if you're not moved on yet. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just going to be tough regardless. But I would hope, I would hope that for Carrie, that she would see that like, this is just a totally different person. You're good. You'll find your person. Yeah. Carrie goes above and beyond to try to impress Natasha, or not even impress, but like, kind of show out, you know, because she feels like she wasn't looking her best before. It's just a fun question. Is this necessary? Would you take the same approach? She's like going to this luncheon she was never going to go to. She's like doing all the extra things. Yeah, you're both like,
definitely. Definitely. Yes. I'm surprised her hair wasn't straight. I thought that was a really interesting wardrobe, hairstyling, beauty decision to make her hair curly in that moment. I was shocked that her hair was not straight.
Because she had recently gone through a straight hair phase.
A straight hair phase, yeah.
And she feels like the wild one compared to Natasha. And
that's a good point. I
could have
never
been
thought
like
of
more
that.
tame, I guess.
Yeah, especially for like a luncheon. Even the act of going to an $85 luncheon, and $85 back then, what is that, like $200 now? That would have been like crazy now.
A lot,
it would have been a lot of money. And just to kind of show out some form of pedigree to this woman, and even going to Manolo and making sure she got like the shoes in the window to make sure she recognized the shoes she was wearing. Like there was just so many moments that Carrie wanted to hit Natasha the way Natasha hit Carrie, which obviously could never happen because Natasha ain't checking for her,
and she literally did not come.
Nope,
physically did not come.
Literally wasn't there. I think this is a fun like way to even just like boost your confidence a little bit, especially if you're feeling super down that he's moved on and damn, she's prettier than me, like, or whatever. Like, just do whatever you need to do.
I would just be like, you're not about to catch me slipping again.
Hell, again, not for third time. No, ma'am. Yeah. Oh my God. I was also even thinking, so I told you, Justine, 2 weeks ago, I went to Nate's high school reunion. So this is my husband's 15-year high school reunion. And I definitely spent a little extra time just kind of curating my outfits. I don't know who I'm about to see. I don't know what. He had a high school girlfriend. The chances that she was going to come was like so low because I think he said she lives in California. She has kids. Like I was like, she more than likely is not coming to this. But even regardless of her, I was like, I'm going there representing. I'm, Nate's wife. The union of Nate. He was also like, he was very much the golden boy in his high school. He was like the captain of every sport. He won this, that, and the third award. Like, he's very well beloved. And I'm going there as his partner, right? So I'm like, I don't know who I'm impressing, but I want to like make sure I fit the bill, show up. But it was fun. It was fun to kind of just like, oh my God, who am I going to see? And kind of just like play the role as Nate's wife, you know, which is, I have my own life, my own job, whatever. But, you know, to be the housewife, you know, for the moment, or like the wife character. It was fun to kind of just like play into that and kind of even just like boost my confidence a little bit. Like, oh, I look cute. This is cute. We're walking in hand, looking like a boss ass couple to this
a handsome couple.
A handsome couple. Exactly.
Yeah. I know I felt the same way when I used to go to downtown a lot. I've talked about this before on the show. Downtown is like my ghost town. Mad ghosts of romance, of friendship. I might run into somebody in downtown Manhattan.
Yeah.
And so whenever I would go to downtown Manhattan, I would always try to like, first of all, have my head on a swivel, and then second of all, look my best. Kristina, do you have any areas of New York like that where they're like a graveyard of you don't know who you're gonna run into?
Broken dreams,
so
broken hearts.
No. You know, and the other thing is like so many of the people I knew who lived in New York left during COVID.
Oh,
yeah. And the other thing is like I have been with my husband since I was 20. So when I was, and so when I moved to New York, he was a year behind me in college. And so I moved to New York and I was here for like 2-3 years. And then he moved to New York and then we were just there together. So I don't, sometimes I guess when I'm in Midtown, I'm like, oh, am I going to see somebody I used to work with? But
you used to work with? I was going to ask you about that.
Like and then even then it would be nice to, you know, to run into, I really loved everybody that I worked with. So that would be fine. But otherwise, no. Yeah. It's like, if I go to certain areas, it's more like nostalgia. Like, oh, I used to do this here. Or like because I went to the new school. And so I seem to be down by 14th Street a lot. I don't even, there's always something going on in Union Square kind of area.
Always.
And I'm always like, oh, I remember when I was like 22 walking these streets, you know.
Running around. Yeah. Now Miranda and Magda. So Magda is definitely the woman that exists to make Miranda feel bad about herself, just reminding her constantly that she's single, she's unwed, there's something wrong with her. I think we all, or I'll speak for myself, maybe have a Magda in our life, whether it's like an old auntie or a grandma or a mom who just is always kind of nagging. When you getting married? When you having a kid? When you doing this? Can y'all relate to this? Am I speaking about myself?
Yes, but I usually out-feminize them somehow. I usually don't worry about them because I've out-recipe'd, I've out-makeuped, I've out-feminized.
That is hilarious. I need to use that word. I need to put that in a book. And my own person, like my mom is very chill. She's kind of just like you do, you know, the whole kids thing. I will say my husband's aunts are a little bit more like that. I remember like 2 months after we got married, we were at my niece's sweet 16, and my one aunt, or my husband's aunt, my husband's aunt, asked in front of everybody, like, "Oh, are you gonna start having kids? Should I try to have kids soon?" And I was like, "What? Can we not do that in a public setting? Like, what kind of question is this? You know, we literally just got married."
As hurtful as those questions can be and annoying as those questions can be, you can't be asking me them questions when you have like a full mustache. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm like, you can try and ask those questions to me, but I'll be rude right back to you. It'd be like, when are you plucking that chin hair, girl? Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
next question. What are your best practices for confronting these women? You see Miranda kind of like goes off on Magda and kind of demands the respect and like, you can't keep judging me like this. How have you guys dealt with these auntie types in your lives?
No better than Miranda, to be honest with you. I feel like I'm still trying to find the way to go about saying that, because in that one particular situation that I just brought up, I kind of just was like, what? Like literally just said like, what kind of question?
It's shocking.
Yes.
Yeah,
and then, my husband laughed and he was like, oh no, we're not, he's the one who has a little bit of an easier time to be like, about it. But I'm very much like, why is that a question that you're even asking me? And I think another thing, now I'm going to get tangential, but I'll make it short. But like another thing is like, there are, when it comes to specifically like having babies after, or getting married or whatever, a lot of people don't want to do it anymore. But also there are a lot of women who are trying to get pregnant but can't. And then to be asked that question is invasive and also probably hurtful, So I just feel like it's a generational thing. I feel like our generation is aware about how you have those conversations, whereas like older generations just like expect, oh, you got married, so that means you're going to do this. Or like you're a woman of a certain age, you're probably looking for a husband, right? Like, what do you have a vibrator for? Like, you need to go find a husband. It's just like, no, not everybody wants to live their lives that way.
And it's hard to in the moment. Like my parents had a Super Bowl party. They have a Super Bowl party every year. First person, I walk in the door, I'm like carrying something, bringing food or whatever. First person I see, my uncle. First thing he says, oh, you're not pregnant. I don't see a pregnant belly. I literally just stepped in the house. I didn't see my mommy. I didn't see anybody else. He was the first person to catch me, and that was how I was greeted. And I was just like, crazy. So caught. I don't even think I said anything. I kind of just like made a face. And was like, okay, and then just like went to the kitchen, and I'm just like, how?
It's still shocking because your anatomy. They're asking you about your anatomy.
Yes.
Like, it's so shocking. Even when I was 29, I remember I ran into somebody I knew at the mall, and she was an older woman, not married, grabbed my left hand and said, where's the ring? Where's the ring? When I said I was 29, simply because I said I was 29 years old.
Oh my God.
Like it's so incredibly invasive. And I guess it's a perspective thing for us, right? To us, we're like, why did you just give me a pap smear? You're my uncle at a Super Bowl party.
Thank you. Like, yes, get out of my uterus.
Can you not? Can you please not? That's how we hear that question. But they don't hear it like that.
Yeah.
No.
So I'd be actually more curious to hear, and put down below on Patreon and Spotify and everything.
Yes, please.
If you're an older woman, maybe if you're a Gen X woman or even a baby boomer, how did you respond to those questions? Because they were probably just way more common back then. And now we just think of like, we have so much more autonomy over ourselves.
Yeah.
We're just like, how dare you?
Yeah. We're snapping. We are snapping and turning up on our aunties now. But it's not like these questions weren't asked before,
Right.
But also we are in like unprecedented times in the sense that like, there's way more 34, 35-year-old women who are not married, not, pregnant, not with kids. There's more of us walking around, so more of us are getting questioned, right?
Yeah.
But
yes.
I would love to know from the Gen X, the boomers, whatever, when you were around these ages, or even if you were, let's say, not in your 30s, but in your 20s, still unmarried, unwed, whatever, and you were getting those questions, how did you face them? Or, how have we been... Let's share best practices, please.
Yeah.
Because we're out here still struggling. Advice.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Another one. I've been saying to people, worry about your own uterus. I said that to my mom recently. And that kind of just like, And if people ask me when are you getting pregnant, you trying? I just say, when I'm pregnant, you'll be the first to know. Until then, don't ask me anything.
And that's also,
and I know they'll be the last. That's the funny part about it.
You'll be the last to know. Yeah, that's what really I should say.
It's such a weird question too, because it's like, are you having sex with your partner?
That's basically
what they're asking.
Y'all raw dogging or not? Yeah.
Just like, please.
That's how we receive that question, though. It's so crazy to think about. Yeah. Because I have said, like, pluck your chin hairs before you ask me anything about.
You said that to someone?
Absolutely. Yeah, somebody I'm really close to. Yeah.
Okay.
Because who do you like? If you're all up in me, then I'll be all up in your face. All too.
Up in you. Yeah.
But I have a family who's afraid of me, so that's where I'm at.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't have any other questions, but I think
we went over everything. I
think we wrapped it up. Yeah. Kristina, thank you so much for joining us and helping us dissect this fun little episode, and also just bringing your wealth and wisdom of writing about love and romance and living in this world in fiction and real life, like, and just wrapping it all up. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm just like, anytime I get to talk to people about Sex in the City, and I loved the conversation. It's really great.
Nice. Where can people purchase your books? What do you have coming up? What do you want to share with the audience?
Yes. So my books are available wherever books are sold. If you have a local indie, I always say support your local indie bookstore. I have a YA romance coming out on October 7th called Heartsick that's currently available for pre-order. And my most recent book was called The Love Lyric, and that is an adult romance book that's the third in a series. And you can find me at KristinaForest.com.
Nice. Everybody go pre-order Heartsick, and go purchase The Love Lyric. Kristina, thank you for joining us. Guys, we'll be back.
Thank you for having me.
Nice. Bye.
Bye.